Hello everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze and to this week's canning chat. Super excited. I think I made it onto 7 pages with all of the questions. So there's a lot of really good questions this week and I hope I can answer them all. Remember, if you have a question, leave it in the comment section down below and I will answer your questions next week. Okay, so let's get started. We have Debbie Andrews says, I just watched your canning chicken broth video and I have a question. I have never made it, so I'm wondering, after you pick the meat off the bones, do you just put the bones in the freezer until you have enough to make broth? How many bones do you need? Do you just add any vegetables, or is there a ratio of water to vegetables? Great questions, actually. So the water is dependent on the bones. So I make sure that the water covers the bones, okay? That's so however many bones you need to do that for whatever pot you're doing it in. As far as vegetables go, I add whatever I would add to chicken soup. So carrots, celery, onions, garlic, whatever the case may be, pepper. And it's totally up to your taste. So you can change that around. Remember, if you're adding carrots, they can tend to get a little sweet depending on the carrots. So, I don't do a whole bunch, but if I have extras in the fridge that I need to get rid of, they're going in the pot. Are they necessary? No, not at all. It's just a little extra flavor, that's all. So great question, thank you. Highlands Community Club says, I have a question about the recanning of tomato sauce and why it's not recommended. You've mentioned the pH level, however, if tomato sauce is recanned using a pressure canner at a higher pH level should not make a difference, should it? Isn't low acid, high pH food preserved safely by pressure canning? I understand it's not recommended, but I do not understand why the pH would be the reason. Okay, so it's not recommended. You guys, I'm a canner. I'm a home canner. And I go by the rules, as much as I possibly can anymore. It is what they say. Now, you still have to pressure can tomato sauce. If you go to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, you will see that you have to pressure can it and you have to add acid to it. So it's either lemon juice or it's citric acid. It is what it is, and if you want to delve deeper into it, I would highly, highly recommend that you send an email to the National Center for Home Food Preservation and see if they can explain the science better for you, because I'm not a scientist and I don't play one on YouTube. Karen Hardwick, okay. When canning ugly chicken, can I add onion or carrot for flavor, and if so, blanch or not? I don't know how you would do it effectively, okay? So, raw packed chicken, ugly chicken, is putting all the chicken in the jar to 1 1/4 inch headspace, okay, and then canning it. If you wanted to add a little bit into hot packed chicken, I can see doing that. I can see doing that. It's not something that I would do. I also don't see the need to blanch it because you're canning it for the meat time, but that's a matter, it's worth trying, I guess. Dawn Essen, I have a question. My area's pressure is 10 pounds. Frequently, I'm struggling to get it to 10 pounds. Usually it works best at 11. Is there a problem if it's a higher pressure than what your area calls for? Not if you're 1 degree higher, okay? If you are required to have it at 10 and you can't get it lower than 11, that's fine. 12, start to worry. 13, back that puppy down. No. 14, 15, absolutely not, okay? So you want to be as close as humanly possible. 1 degree will not make that much of a difference. Shelly Jean, I want to can my homemade soups and chili. I use canned beans in my chili. Since my soups and chili are pre-cooked, will they be mushy after canning? That might be a case-by-case basis. They shouldn't be, because you're canning soups for a lesser time. There's more liquid in there than there is solids, which is why you're canning for a lesser time than if you were just canning beans. You might want to try one just to see. I tend to find that most vegetables are soft, but I don't. You might want to see how it affects you, because mushy is different for every single person, Give it a try. It may work. W2 WTH, I go 77. So these pasta sauce jars I am saving that say Atlas Mason on the side cannot be reused. Do you know why specifically? They can be reused for dry storage, for dry goods, but they cannot be reused for canning. And the simple answer is they are not the same kind of glass that canning jars are made out of. So they are not meant to withstand the pressure canning. Some people use them for jams or jellies. I don't put jams or jellies in that big a jar, but they are not the same kind of glass. So that's the answer. Linda Horton says, when you boil the beans for 30 minutes and are ready to put it in the jars, do you use the water the beans are boiled in, or do you use fresh hot water? I use fresh hot water. Glendon Andrix, I have frozen sausage patties in my freezer. I need to can to free up some space in my freezer. They are pre-cooked and frozen. Would I have to fry first before canning, or can they be put into a jar the way they are? Okay, so if you're looking at, first look at the ingredients. That's my caveat, okay? So if the ingredients are nothing but 100% pork, no, you don't have to, well, either way, you don't have to brown them, okay? So yes, you could put them in the jar, add the water, make sure you've debubbled it, okay, and then pressure can them. But you want to look at them because some sausage patties that you buy at the store do have fillers in them. So if they've got any kind of grain or thickener in with the sausage, you can't can them. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Greg Savage, what kind of pressure canner would you recommend? Great question. The one that you can afford. Just that simple. I love the Presto pressure canners. I have five of them. Okay. I love the All-Americans. I have 4 of them. It's just a matter of what you can afford. Now, personally, never bought a new All-American, never will. Phil is very good at finding them, you know, on Craigslist or local marketplace or anything like that. But for a workhorse, the Presto is an amazing workhorse that will do you well, will serve you well, okay? The biggest difference between the two, other than weight, is that the Presto requires a gasket that may require changing every couple of years, whereas the All-American does not. Also, the All-American can be used over a propane burner without fear of warping it, whereas the Presto cannot. So it's really a decision that you have to make based on where you're at, what you're doing, and how much you can afford. But both of those, I highly recommend. But Presto's a workhorse. I mean, she's a beast. She really is. Okay, Joni, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I canned for the first time and canned my ugly chicken. Came out beautifully. Awesome. Ugly chicken for the win. If my canner was almost out of water at the end, does it mean that my jiggler was going too fast? It could be one of two things. Yes, your jiggler could be going too fast. 2, you didn't have enough water in there. So 1, temper back that heat. Check out the video down below for using the regulator, okay? And then the other one is if you're canning meats. My personal opinion is if you're canning meats, use the 3 inches of water. Put 3 inches of water in your pot and then add the rack and then add the jars, because the 3 inches of water gives you a little safety, you know, as far as making sure you don't run out, because you don't want to do that. You do not want to run out of water. You don't want to make your canner dry. It will warp your canner and turn it into a very expensive flower pot. You know what I mean? So, awesome on the ugly chicken, though. Okay, Female Crusader. Awesome name. I have seen both hot pack temperature and cold pack the jars. With hot pack, I've seen people warm their jars in the oven and others in the canner with water, so both be the same temp. I would think warming your jars is best in the canner, or does it make a difference? It absolutely makes a difference. The canning jars are not made for dry heat. Please, people, leave your jars outside of the oven. They are made for a wet heat. Putting them into a hot oven actually compromises the glass and can shorten the life of the jars. You can also shatter them. I know it's only 200 degrees, okay? But it can, and eventually it will, and it's not fun. So keep your jars out of the oven. Heat up your jars in water because that's what they're made for. Did I do it again? No. Okay, Sonia Garcia says, oh, okay, so Sonia Garcia and Emily Cummings, I'm catching on to you guys, asked very similar questions, okay? I've water bath canned for years. I'm not going to try pressure canning. I have an All-American. However, I'm having trouble finding my altitude for where I live. And Emily says that she's in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, and having a hard time finding what her pressure should be. Okay, so I'm going to put a link down below to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, specifically to where you can discover what your altitude is, okay? You've got this. I've also heard people say that if you type your address into Google, and you know, what is my altitude at 123 Main Street, it'll tell you, okay? Let's see, I am RA. Greetings from New Zealand. Hello, New Zealand. Why do you Americans call it canning? Okay. You guys have the most incredible faith in my knowledge. You all use glass bottles, which here in New Zealand, we call it bottling. So where are the cans? What is the history behind the term canning? For that one, I would have to send you to Google, okay? But I do know there are simple basic differences in language between the English used over there and the English used here. You know, Americans, we manage to, you know, twist everything all up. But if you, what is the one I'm thinking of? Biscuits. A biscuit over there is a cookie, but a biscuit here is a biscuit. You know, it's like bread. So there's just, I don't know. Might be a good thing for Google. Let's see. Kimmy ML Small Garden Dream. I think I got that right. As you might remember, I have a very, very old canner made by Montgomery Ward. Can I use the jiggler? So for that one, because what I understand, I have one too. I have one too. So from what I understand, we can use the jiggler on it. Do not take my word for it, okay? Call Presto to make sure, because I believe that this is a form of the Presto pressure canner. So definitely call Presto, give them the same information, you know, that you gave me, and double check with them, because I believe that you can. Let's see. Sorry, I'm a little sniffly because of the weather today. It's been pouring down rain all day now and snowing. And I'm warm because the fire's been going. Okay, so Melinda Chinook. I've never seen this question asked. Sometimes I notice a jar or two comes out of the canner not boiling and bubbling like the others in the batch, yet they seal fine. Why is that? I have no idea. The bubbling, when you pull it out of the canner, is not a be-all, end-all decision on whether or not it's going to seal properly. It is sometimes a tell that it may not seal, but it is not guaranteed that it won't. I would say 50% of the jars that I pull out of my canner that are not boiling when I pull them out still seal. So I never even correlated the two until some subscribers mentioned it to me. So it's not a guarantee. Oh, Annemarie Knapp says, I pulled a jar from 2020 home canned pasta sauce, and the lid is on, but the button is up. After discarding the contents, good call, do you also throw away the jar or sanitize and reuse? It was a one of, the rest are sealed. Keep the jar. Jars are not permeable. Keep the jar. Don't throw away your jars, okay? But definitely a very good call on getting rid of it, because that was a false seal. Diana Watson, 28. I was gifted 2 50-gallon drums of jars. That's amazing. That's a gift, yes. One 50-gallon are pints and the other one are quarts. They have been in the elements for at least 5 years in these crumbs. And what suggestion would you give to make sure they are safe for canning now? Wash them, okay? So first you're going to wash them, and then literally you're going to inspect every single one of them. Look for cracks, look for chips, look for anything that shouldn't be there that may compromise the jar when it's under pressure. I hope that you come out with more that are good than bad. That's an amazing gift. As you know it asks, I have issues with cans, home canned and store-bought, rusting. Is there something I can put on the lids or cans to keep them from rusting? I have heard something about rubbing them with food-grade mineral oil or wax. What do you think? I mean, theoretically, I guess that could work, but my concern more is where you're storing them, okay? When you're storing home canned food or any food, it needs to be in a cool, dark, dry place. So it sounds to me like the dry is being omitted here, and you may need to relocate them. I personally, if they're rusting like that, I would move them to someplace else. But it's a good question. So I guess, if I guess mineral oil would work, but I don't know for sure. My best suggestion would be to relocate them. CC is right. Yes, yes, yes. I have a question. First time pressure canner here, and I tried roasted red peppers. Is there a way to make them less mushy? No, there's not. Simple answer is no. You are pressure canning peppers. They're going to be mushy. The only way to not have mushy peppers is to pickle them. That's a completely different thing. So you can enjoy home canned roasted peppers, but they're gonna be soft. Penny Hibbard says, I'm wondering what the best potatoes to can are. Last year I canned Yukon Gold and they turned out great, but I've read that Yukon Golds and Russets aren't the best to can. Well, you proved him wrong. And I don't know who told you this. You guys never give me all the information. Okay. But Yukon Gold and Russets are amazing to can. They're a waxier potato, okay? So there's less starch in them. If you can Idaho or Michigan potatoes or whatever, then they are more starchy and they will form that cloud in there. It's just part of the potato. It's not a deal breaker. I would still can them. I did for a long time. If I have my preference, I can the Yukon Gold or not Russets. Ha! See? Yukon Gold and red potatoes are the ones that I can. Russets, not so much, okay? I had to back that up a step because I'm reading and not comprehending. Yukon Gold and red potatoes are less starchy. Russet potatoes, Idaho potatoes, Michigan potatoes, right? Those ones are the ones that are starchy. So while they're all good canned and they all work, the Russets, the Michigan, the Idaho, they just require some serious rinsing off to get all that extra starch that will settle and make the inside of the jar look very cloudy. It'll kind of look like potato soup, even though the chunks of potato are still in there. Whereas the Yukon Gold or the red potatoes, they don't. Do you still have to peel them? Absolutely you do. So there, I beat you to that question. But great question. You already proved that the Yukon Gold were great to can. I don't know who would have told you that, but yeah, you're good to go. Okay, Crystal Laprade. I'm confused when purchasing the correct size of lid. There are wide mouth and regular size lids, but different size jars. So can I assume if I order wide mouth lids, they will fit any wide mouth jar? Yes. Yes. The sizes of jars are all different. Okay, there's pint, there's quart, there's pint and a half, there's 8 ounce, there's 4 ounce, right? But the opening to the jar is pretty much the same. So you have wide mouth pints and quarts, and actually all of them, okay? Just when you're buying the jars or buying the lids, you want to make sure that they match the other one that you have. So there's only 2. Well, unless you're in Canada, but they're starting to phase those out. They have wide mouth and they have regular mouth lids, and those will do you well. Velocitaptor. Pardon me. Recently, I pressure canned 7 quarts of meatballs and beef broth. 2 of the quarts lost liquid during the pressure canning process to about half, but they did seal afterwards. Are they okay, or do I need to run them again? Do not run them again. Eat them first, okay? That siphoned a lot. And that only 2 of them did that is strange. So, I would actually put them in the fridge and eat them first, because you definitely don't want to go below half, okay? But half is kind of the yellow light, right? So while they're still good to eat, even if they go below half, put them in the fridge. They're not good for storage on the shelf. If they're at half, they're good on the shelf, but use them first. Period. Use them first, okay? Elizabeth Shaw. Isn't boiling them for 30 minutes going to result in a mushy bean? No. Nope. Rosie Slade. Okay. I dread this question. How safe is electric pressure canners? Okay. So I guess it depends on who you talk to. I am of the mind that they have not been tested long enough, properly enough, to convince me that spending $250 or so on an electric pressure canner that may or may not function the same exact way a year after I've been using it, 2 years after I've been using it, 3 years after I've been using it, because I'm depending on electronics to let me know I have an issue. And because there's no long-term testing out there, because the National Center for Home Food Preservation hasn't approved them yet, I mean, they're still saying, no, they're still saying don't do it. Do I trust them? Not on a bet, and not for that money. No way, no how, okay? If I'm going to invest that money, I'm going to invest it in a canner that will work for me in 10, 20, and 30 years. And you cannot convince me right now that anything with electronics in it works beyond the first year. You can't even convince me that half of them work the first year. So do I think they're safe? No, I don't. I don't advocate them. I don't promote them. I don't typically answer questions on them because I don't believe that they have been tested properly for longevity. And anybody that knows electronics knows that anything they make nowadays, they don't make for longevity. My Presto is going to outlive me. My All-American is going to outlive me. An electric pressure canner probably won't see Christmas. So, no. Decoy says, would it help to wrap the canning jars in aluminum foil, dark construction paper, or similar coverings to keep out the light to prolong the freshness? I have to store a lot of preserved foods in some light, and I'm afraid it will degrade prematurely. I don't have to have pretty sitting on the shelf, just preserved. My suggestion then is you're better off to hang a sheet, or a blanket or something like that. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. So there's got to be, get creative. There's got to be a better way to block out most of the light. I mean, it doesn't need to be pitch black, but it should not have direct light hitting it. And so change the curtains or hang something over the shelf or whatever that they're on. That's the easiest fix that I've ever seen, is to curtain the shelf instead of the room, and that should help. I hope that helps. Okay, so Paula Johnson says, ugly chicken is the bomb. Yes, I love it. I'm new to canning and I have a question. I got the bright idea to can pork chili verde, and I use the recipe I use when I cook it for eating immediately. Roasted tomatillos, serrano peppers, poblano pepper, onion, garlic, then blend with cilantro. I thinned the salsa a wee bit with broth. I roasted the pork like for a hot pack filled with quart jars, about 2/3 with meat, and poured the salsa over to 1-inch headspace. Debubbled, canned for 90 minutes. All the jars sealed with minimal seepage. Yes, success, looks delish, but then hearing you talk about acid, I'm concerned. You are fine. You pressure can that for the same time as meat. So you are absolutely fine, and it sounds amazing. Linda Plank, if you use vintage jar and it does break while canning, are the other jars of food safe to consume? Yeah, they are. They are, because the glass isn't the glass from the other jar isn't getting into the other jars. The glass from the broken jar is not getting into the other jars. So yes, you're fine. You're fine. Bonnie McCain, second time. Can you raw pack turkey like you do ugly chicken? Yes, you can. Stuff that bird in a jar and call it a day. Absolutely. Tasty, good, yum stuff. Sunflower Sue. Why does my canned pork taste so dry? It is in broth, so I don't understand why. Okay, I don't have enough information, but I'm going to run with the assumption, but you know what they say about assuming, okay? I'm going to run with the assumption that you canned pork loin. Pork loin has considerably less fat in it, natural fat in it, than pork butt, pork shoulder, okay? And so it will be drier. It's like boneless, skinless chicken breast as opposed to chicken thighs. Chicken thighs are a fattier meat than the chicken breast is. So a lot of people say that the chicken breast is dry, but the chicken thighs are not. Same thing with the pork. the fattier content in the meat, the less dry it will be when you go to eat it. It's still good. I mean, throw some barbecue sauce on it. Good stuff. Karen Fairies. Okay, I love the last name. Okay. Can I add fresh garlic to my meatballs when canning it? Yes, but go light. Go lightly, my dear, okay? When I'm cooking, I believe that you add garlic to the degree that your soul tells you to, okay? Measure with your soul. When you're canning, different ball game because it's going under pressure. And garlic can become bitter if there's too much of it in there, and you don't want to risk that, right? So, yes, but go light. Phyllis Bush Mitchell. Should you tighten all the rings when you take them out of the pressure canner while they are still hot? No. Take them out of the canner, leave them be. Take them out of the canner and leave them be. They all loosen up a little bit. It's normal. It's absolutely normal. Okay, so just leave them be. Amy E. I'm interested in canning lentils in every possible way. Recipes? Nope. Lentils tend to completely disintegrate during the canning process. They're just sensitive little lentils, you know. So if you can them, they'd have to be at the bean time, and no, they just turn to mush. But they're super easy to rehydrate. So I would focus more on what kind of stocks or stew starters that you could can, then add the lentils to when you're ready. Know what I mean? Okay, last question for the day. Are you guys ready? Jean with the crazy last name. I just watched a video from someone saying that ball lids are not good anymore. They are being made outside of the US, which could even be counterfeit. She had a seal fail after a week and blames it all on being a ball lid. I use ball lids all the time and don't have any issues. What are your thoughts? I have so many thoughts on lids, you guys. I could do a whole video on lids, okay? So here's where I'm at. I have not investigated where they're manufactured yet. I'm laying odds they're not manufactured in the US, okay? I'm laying odds there's one company that I'm aware of that might be manufacturing them in the US. Everybody else is manufacturing them out of the country and then testing them in the country. I have mentioned 4Jars lids a gazillion times since the beginning of the year, okay? And when I first introduced them to you guys, I told you they're made in China. Flat out, they're made in China. But they are tested here. And the company who is doing this is an American country. And you're going to find out more about these guys this weekend. So if you can find an American-made lid, and like I said, I think there might be one, but they're much more expensive. And I was not wholly impressed, okay? I don't think most of our lids are being made in this country anymore. That is my belief. So, if you are one of those people that vote with your dollars, which I encourage 100%, okay? And you are not going to buy anything made outside of this country, you need to do some research, and you need to find out where they're being made at, and then you need to decide whether it's more important to put food on your shelves for your family or to go with that. That's the end of that speech. So, what I do know, Jean, is that a lot more people since 2020 have been having epic fails with ball lids. A lot were counterfeited at the beginning of all of 2020 on Amazon. There's for every one good person, there's 10 unscrupulous ones out there, right? I'd like to think it's the other way around. I'm not always sure. But there's been a lot of failures with even the real ball lids. Their quality control seems to have gone down significantly in their desire to get the lids out there. And that's the best that I can offer. I know nothing beyond that, okay? So it's really going to depend. If you are sure that you have ball lids, okay, then definitely check them out. And don't be coming after me, you people, because I will delete the comments, okay? I have to do some research for some information that I'm looking for regarding ball lids on exactly where they're manufactured now, because, you know, the company's not Ball anymore, it's somebody else. But then I want to do some research on that. I already know where Pure and Forge are manufactured and where they're sold from. And there are a few other, you know, Harvest Guard, Kerr, and Ball and Bernardin are all the same company. Where are they manufactured? I don't know, but I'm going to find out, okay? Because I do remember seeing made in the USA. But then I'm hearing things like you're hearing that they're not manufactured here anymore. So I need to do some research, and that's going to take a little bit of time and probably is way beyond my skill set, but I'm going to try. So definitely look for that. We are going to be talking about Four Jars Lids, an American company that is actively under attack. It is sad. It is really sad with all the stuff that's going on in the world today that American companies are being attacked by trolls. So I will have that for you this weekend because it just infuriates me and it makes me sad all at the same time because I want everybody to succeed, especially in this business because we need them. We need them, okay? While I have my Harvest Guard reusable lids, they are not my preference. They are I have no other choice. That's what I'm going to use lid, okay? I like my good old-fashioned metal lids. That's just me. I'm stuck in a rut. I'm of that age. But we all need to do what we think is right for our home and for our food storage. And so I implore you to do some research and figure out where they come from. If you have questions regarding ball lids, take a look at your ball lids. Check the quality as you're putting them on your jars. I have just seen so many bad things over the past couple of years where I'm not done with ball lids. I mean, if I were to run across a deal on them, I'd probably pick them up, you know, but I would question them. I would look at them really, really close. I wouldn't mix them in with all my other lids that I trust completely. So I hope that answered your question along with a little bit of my tangent. Okay. So this was this week's canning chat. Yes. Okay. So for anybody asking, I swear I'm healthy. I'm fine. I just love these headbands. And so there will be a link down below where you can see about these headbands. This way I don't drive Phil crazy with TikTok and I can listen to my books and I can listen to music and he laughs at me as I'm doing the jig across the living room floor. It's funny. And I sleep like a dream. Yes, I do. So check out the link below if you're interested or want to know more about what's going on with her head. And we will see you guys real soon. Until next time, be safe.